attention, please. We kindly ask everyone to please be upstanding. We are honored to announce the arrival of the President of Timor-Leste, His Excellency José Ramos-Horta, entering the Senate Hall of Universitas Gadjah, Mada. Kindly remain standing as the proceedings will begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin today's special occasion, let us honor the sovereign nations represented here through the presentation of their national anthem. First, the national anthem of Republic of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Please rise. Please remain standing. Now let us continue by honoring the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste with the national anthem, Patria.
Song
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning and welcome to today's special forum, the UGM Annual Lecture Nobel Laureate Series. It is my great honor to serve as your host for this important occasion. We are truly delighted to have you here with us, and on behalf of Universitas Gadjah Mada, we extend a warm welcome to all honored guests. His Excellency President José Ramos-Horta, the President of Timor Leste and Nobel Peace Prize laureate of 1996. Good morning and welcome. Honorable Mr. Armando dos Santos Lopez, Chairperson of Commission G Parliament of Timor-Leste and all members of Parliaments of Timor-Leste. His Excellency Roberto Sarmento de Oliveira Soares, Ambassador of Timor-Leste to Indonesia. Welcome to Universitas Gadjah Mada. Thank you so very much for standing. And we welcome also Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Honorable Professor Todung Mulya Lubis, Indonesian Ambassador to Norway, period from 2018 until 2023. And we welcome Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada, Professor Dr. Ova Emilia, PhD, distinguished guests, contributors, Mayapada representatives, students, members of the media, and all participants joining us today. This forum is made possible through the generous support of the PT Bank Mayapada International Tbk. Today, we gather to reflect on the themes of empowering communities through UGM's KKN PPM, co-learning, social entrepreneurship, and peace in practice. Here is a brief overview of today's program. We will have opening remarks, video screenings, strategic introduction, keynote address, conclusion and closing remarks, souvenir presentation, then group photo followed by lunch and networking. And to begin our program, we are pleased to invite the Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada to deliver her welcoming remarks. Please welcome Professor Dr. Ova Emilia, PhD.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, Dr. José Ramos-Horta, the Honorable Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bapak Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, also President Komisi Parlemen Timor-Leste, Bapak Armando, Profesor Todung Mulya Lubis, Civitas Academica, Board of Trustees, Academic Senate, Vice Rectors, Dean, and all distinguished guests. Very good morning. First and foremost, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to the campus of Universitas Gadjah Mada. Today is a historic moment for all of us with the visit of the Honorable Dr. José Ramos-Horta, a prominent figure in the history of democracy and peace in Southeast Asia, as well as a Nobel Peace Prize laureate in 1996, with all the delegation. On behalf of Universitas Gadjah Mada, we sincerely thank you for your kindness to visit our university. Universitas Gadjah Mada, or we call it UGM, as a higher education institution in Indonesia, is a place for developing knowledge, which also has an ethical dimension to contribute to the social development of society. Mr. President, let me share some information about UGM's identity as a people's university. known through its service work as the Universitas Deso, or Rural University, is committed to consistently advocating for and prioritizing the interests of the people, particularly by participating in development efforts that impact the economic, social, cultural, peace, and social integration sectors. Various programs have been actively carried out by the university to address national issues, one of which is through community service activities and the KKN program. The roots of UGM's community service programs began several decades ago, when the university took part in the student deployment program, which involved sending students to teach in regions outside Java after Indonesia's independence. This program successfully encouraged the involvement of UGM alongside other universities, such as the Bandung Institute of Technology, University of Indonesia, Airlangga University, Pajajaran University, Hasanuddin University, Andalas University, and also the University of North Sumatra. Since its inception between 1951 and 1962, Universitas Gadjah Mada has developed 1,110 students volunteers as teaching staff in 161 high schools across 97 cities through the PTM program, which later became the forerunner of UGM's current Students Community Service Program, or we call it KKN. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, UGM Students Community Service Program, or KKN, was officially launched in 1972. However, the idea of implementing KKN and UGM's community engagement programs with real impact on society had been carried out long before that. Let me take the data from the last year, that the university has deployed 315 KKN units across 35 provinces, 29 regencies, and 247 districts, which involve a total of 8,500 students from 18 faculties and 1 school. The program that outreach all regions of Indonesia shows commitment of UGM for the country. Data from the Directorate of Community Service and Student Affairs indicates that in 2024, the KKN program successfully established partnership with 47 private and government partners. Furthermore, the program has successfully expanded globally through the international KKN program, which involved 111 foreign students from 21 partner universities across 9 countries. And at this stage, we would like to invite Timor Leste to join this program as well. At the beginning of 2025, UGM has been initiated exploratory cooperation with alumni in Timor Leste, which roughly around 3,000 alumni, to enhance 3 Dharma University programs, including the international KKN program. KKN is function as co-learning space, allowing students learn together and from each other, working in groups or partnership with stakeholders in community. The UGM KKN program is consistently aimed at addressing community issues and contributing to national development. The implementation, based on principles of co-creation, co-financing, sustainability, flexibility, and a multidisciplinary approach, also enables the program to foster graduates' readiness to become creative and proactive leaders. KKN has leverage function, solve the problems within community in the disadvantaged regions sustainably, which at the end improve the welfare of people in the area. Among the impactful programs that have been carried out are: first, developing micro, small, and medium enterprise programs and increasing regional potential in the fields of culture and tourism, in a sustainable manner. Developing technology for regional empowerment as Desa apps application, which help farmers work in getting information and education related to agriculture, animal husbandry, and fisheries. And also Gamagora, the premium rice varieties that proven to be resilient with diverse environmental conditions in Enggano Island, Bengkulu Province. Improving the quality of public health service, and also developing climate change mitigation programs such as renewable energy by installing solar panels, waste management, food and water security. The success of KKN is definitely the result of synergistic cross-sectoral collaboration, including contribution from local government as well as alumni of the university or Kagama. The program has also become a distinctive element of education at UGM, which is widely known as Universitas Ndeso, or a grassroots university, with the guiding principle of migunani, or being useful in addressing the nation's challenge. Through the KKN program, students are encouraged to cultivate empathy, social awareness, collaboration, and personal character across multidisciplinary fields, thereby fostering learning communities and contributing to improving the competitiveness of society at both regional and national levels. On the other hand, the community empowerment initiatives driven by the programs also support the enhancement of the nation's competitiveness at the local, regional, and national scale. The KKN program stands as conclusive evidence that education, research, and community service can operate synergistically and generate real impact for society. Mr. President, I warmly welcome today's agenda. May UGM's KKN program continue to make a meaningful impact and contribute to social economic development for promoting peace in the world. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada, Professor Dr. Ova Emilia, PhD, for your warm and inspiring welcome speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now honored to invite a distinguished guest to deliver his remarks. Please welcome Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugra Seno.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to His Excellency José Ramos-Horta, President of Timor Leste. Also to Professor Dr. Ova Emilia, PhD, Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada, Professor Dr. Ambassador Todong Mulia Lubis, ESA LLM, and also Civitas Academica of UGM, and also students, Ambassador of Timor Leste in Jakarta, the distinguished delegates of Timor Leste to Yogyakarta today, the media and students, a very good morning to all of you. While we are having a great discussion this morning, in a peaceful way, I think we should not forget that the world today, currently where we are living, is not in a peaceful manner. We have to be feeling blessed for that Indonesia, Timor Leste are in a peaceful situations today. Peace is not a reality that can be taken for granted for a lot of people. My previous assignment was Indonesian ambassador to Germany. I went to Berlin in 2018, and people in Germany, also in Europe in general, at that time, 2018, which is not very long from today, not too far, they all believed that there will be no war in Europe. But look what happened today. The invasion of Russia to Ukraine, the war has been pestering since the invasions. Many people have died on both sides, and the order in Europe is now being questioned. In South Asia, 2025, we see the conflict of India and Pakistan escalated from April 2025, and it had killed many civilians as well, and the incident triggered attacks from both sides against each other. If you look at our region, even Southeast Asia, we thought we are immune from conflict. Alhamdulillah, we are in a very good situation here in Indonesia and Timor Leste, but other countries in Southeast Asia, in Myanmar, and recently the conflict in Cambodia and Thailand, is also an example of how precarious is the peace of today. Not to mention the situations in East Asia. If you look at Africa, there are 35 ongoing conflicts in Africa. They happen in many countries, in West Africa, in Central Africa, in East Africa, in North Africa, and of course we see the situation in the Middle East, which is getting worse and worse every day, and it is enabled, the Israeli barbarism was enabled because of they are supported by many Western countries. So I think this is a very unfortunate situation that engulf the world today. I think if you are looking at the core of this issue across the world, we see a similar pattern, which is the importance of humanity, the importance of empowering people, the importance of creating peace and wealth and prosperity of people at the lowest level of the social strata. And I believe the program that we have today, initiated by UGM decades ago on KKN, Kuliah Kerja Nyata, which I was myself participating when I was university students in Diponegoro University. It was a very telling experience. I was a student in Diponegoro University from 1981 to 1986, and in 1985 I had to do KKN program in north of Java, not very far from my campus. It's only about 35 kilometers, but the conditions of the people there are really, really unbelievably poor. And students like myself, we were deployed there. We had to be creative. We were very limited funding or no funding at all to find programs that would at least reduce the suffering of the people. We could not do much as a student, but being students young at that time with other students, we organized many different activities that create at least some structure for the social fabric in the community at that level. We believe that although it is a very, very small contribution, but it is contributions nonetheless. And if we bring that together with different programs, I believe it has created a social impact nationwide in Indonesia. So I believe we need to encourage and continue this program, this KKN program, probably in the current days where you have the new generation. We are not the same with my generations. the program might be adjusted a little bit, but I think the spirit is there to be nurtured and also to be continued for the long future in different parts of Indonesia. And as a matter of fact, it could also be replicated in different countries in the world. So maybe Bapak Presiden, the KKN program could also be replicated in Timor Leste, in many other developing countries. So it could also create a ripple effect from the academic, student, and the society. But also at this event, I would like to touch the bilateral relations between Indonesia and Timor Leste. I have a personal connection with Bapak Ramos-Horta. I've met him in Geneva in 1986 when I was a junior diplomat, and he was a human rights fighter. And we were on the other side of the fence. We were basically enemies. We would come to a coffee shop, I remember in Geneva, that we would argue. We had strong words in the plenary hall, but we had very nice discussions on live, on things in general in the coffee shops. So it also gave lessons actually to younger generations that you may have a different opinions or stance, but professional courtesy, professionalism needs to be maintained. So, you know, I would say we have been friends for a very, very, very long time, Bapak Presiden. Thank you very much for your friendship to me, Bapak Presiden. It's a very strong relations, of course, between Indonesia and Timor Leste. I think at this event, we could concentrate on at least 3 different issues. Number 1, educations. UGM, I think, speaks for itself. It has thousands of Timor-Leste graduates, alumni, and I think this should become a very strong link between Indonesia and Timor-Leste through educations. Second, peace building. We can share the history of our 2 countries and share the commitment also at the regional peace, lesson learned from reconciliations and post-conflict environment. And then economic cooperation, I think, is very important for both of us, social entrepreneurship, sustainable development initiatives that benefit both countries. So once again, before I close, I would like to extend my thanks to UGM for this event, and also special thanks to Bapak Presiden Ramos-Horta, who has been so kindly taken his time to come to Yogyakarta and to come to Indonesia. And I really hope that the relation between Indonesia and Timor-Leste flourish even further through the education channel. So once again, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, for your thoughtful remarks. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us now take a moment to watch our video presentation, a powerful glimpse into the spirit and stories behind UGM's impactful community service initiatives. Enjoy the video.
At Universitas Gadjah Mada, knowledge doesn't stop in the classroom. It grows, travels, and serves. Through the KKN PPM program, students step beyond campus walls to live, learn, and work hand-in-hand with communities across Indonesia. Each year, thousands of UGM students dedicate their time and skills to real-world problems, empowering villages, supporting sustainability, and co-creating solutions that make lasting change. Whether it's introducing appropriate technology, building better sanitation systems, or fostering entrepreneurship, every action is rooted in collaboration, respect, and shared growth. Joining PPM is more than community service. It's an experience of empathy, a bridge between knowledge and humanity, a journey of becoming future leaders who understand the heartbeat of the nation. From the heart of the villages to the future of Indonesia, UGM's KKN PPM proves that true education uplifts, empowers, and transforms. Together we serve, together we grow.
Ladies and gentlemen, next we will hear a strategic introduction on UGM's measurable and impactful community service programs. Our speaker is a respected legal practitioner and diplomat, the Indonesian ambassador to Norway, period from 2018 until 2023, and recipient of the Ellis and Walter E. Haas International Award in 2017. Please welcome Mr. Todung Mulya Lubis.
Excellency José Ramos-Horta, President of Timor Leste, Professor Ova Amelia, Rector of Gadjah Mada University, my good friend Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia, Civitas Academia, and distinguished audience. I'm not a speaker, to be honest with you. My task here is to introduce our main speakers, guest of honor, the President of Timor Leste, a friend of Indonesia, and Nobel Peace Laureate, José Ramos-Horta. José Ramos-Horta is the current President of Timor Leste. He has served as Prime Ministers and other positions nationally and internationally. No one could disassociate him from the freedom movement of Timor Leste. The world recognized him as the key leaders of the independence movement of Timor-Leste. But José Ramos-Horta has not carried guns, I believe, and not killed people. He fought for Timor-Leste independence through tireless international diplomacy, making appearances in many parts of the world, at the UN, EU, Amnesty International, universities, seminars, and television interviews. José Ramos-Horta is the international face of the freedom movement in Timor-Leste. No one could deny that José Ramos-Horta succeeded in introducing Timor-Leste to the world, and more than that, the right of Timor-Leste to be independent has been accepted internationally. The first time I met José Ramos-Horta was around 1988. I was at the University of California, Berkeley, doing my PhD. We met in a meeting of student activists, and José Ramos-Horta talked about the right to self-determination by quoting the UN Declaration of Human Rights. As an activist and freedom fighter, José Ramos-Horta himself talked about hardship in Timor-Leste, tension between Indonesia and Timor-Leste, in which the Indonesian military occupied Timor-Leste. Of course, human rights violations were part of José Ramos-Horta's speech, but I did not see him making exaggerations. He was to the point, argumentative, and appealing. I know what happened in Timor-Leste at the time, and I felt no offense when José Ramos-Horta talked about human rights violations committed at the time. As a human rights activist myself, I shared those sentiments of José Ramos-Horta, and as I can recall, at that encounters, I presented my understanding that Timor-Leste historically and legally had never been part of Indonesia, when Indonesia proclaimed its independence back in 1945. When deliberations of the 1945 constitutions were held, no single statement or claim was made about Timor Leste being part of Indonesian state. Distinguished audience, since then I follow José Ramos-Horta's appearances in various medias and was impressed with his determination to fight for his country. He's truly a person committed to freedom, peace, and human rights. But I lost contact with him, although I visited Timor Leste several times, where I met close friends of José Ramos-Horta. Needless to say that the world in general admires José Ramos-Horta for being so active, persistent, and consistent in his fight in the international fora, traveling from one country to another country. I think it is not wrong if I say that international support and recognition of Timor-Leste, in most part, has been the result of international diplomacy of the Lone Ranger's José Ramos-Horta. This is not to say that I ignore the contribution of other people who fought in their own way in Timor-Leste, in the jungle and in prison in Jakarta. Fighting for independence has always been a national endeavor, a collective struggle, not a single individual one. Everyone has his or her own share in all the fighting, be it in armed struggle or in the loneliness of diplomacy. At one point, in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, I shared a podium with José Ramos-Horta at Ubud Readers and Writers Festival. I was a moderator asking him questions in one-on-one interview about his take on Timor-Leste. Relationship with Indonesia after going through a long and bloody fight in order to be independent. That was the hard questions. But José Ramos-Horta diplomatically explained that Indonesia is a big brother of Timor-Leste. Big country, rich country, and powerful country. Timor-Leste should look into the future because there will be many opportunities to strengthen cooperation in various fields. Stability and peace in ASEAN or Southeast Asia would partly depend on Indonesia being the largest country in the region. Timor-Leste will need Indonesia, and what happened in the past has to be reconciled by both Indonesia and Timor-Leste. Both countries may not be able, perhaps, to forget the past. However, both countries should live peacefully together, side by side, cementing a better future for the countries and the regions. During the interview, we also talked about human rights violations that took place in Timor-Leste prior to the referendum in 1999. I know this very well because at that time I was sent to Timor-Leste by President Habibie as part of fact-finding investigation team set up by the government. We mentioned several well-publicized human rights matters, but concluded that it was the time to have all those human rights cases resolved through what we call a transitional justice mechanism, like what was done in South Africa, bringing the perpetrators to court of law if necessary, but mostly to forgive, but not to forget. The most important thing is to have a truth-telling and healing and learning from the history. Distinguished audience, my interview at Ubud Readers and Writers Festival convinced me that José Ramos-Horta is indeed a statesman, an honorable human being. More than that, I saw him as a sincere friend of Indonesia. In 2018, when I had dinner at his residence in Dili, I saw his enthusiasm in nominating NUN Muhammadiyah to win the Nobel Peace Prize. José Ramos-Horta and I believe that Indonesian unity has always been a product of moderate and tolerant Islam, in which NUN Muhammadiyah plays super important roles. Indonesian Islam is not the same with Islam in other countries, in which fundamentalisms, extremisms, and violence often appear as the face of Islam. In my opinion, the Nobel Committee should have awarded NUN Muhammadiyah the Nobel Peace at the time. But the Nobel Committee failed to understand the importance of unity and peace in Indonesia. José Ramos-Horta understands this very well and is still enthusiastic in renominating NUN Muhammadiyah to win the Nobel Peace. But 2 weeks ago, when I had a chance to meet José Ramos-Horta in Jakarta, he raised the same questions again. Will we renominate NUN Muhammadiyah for the Nobel Peace Prize? Frankly, I could not answer that question because I'm not sure whether we should continue doing that. This is my personal opinion. My take is José Ramos-Horta profoundly cares about Indonesia. When Gadjah Mada University invited him to deliver a public lecture, he immediately accepted the invitations. He is aware that Gadjah Mada University has a special relationship with Timor Leste, given the fact that many people from Timor Leste studied and graduated from Gadjah Mada University. Perhaps Gadjah Mada University has around 3,000 alumni in Timor Leste, many of which hold public offices within the governments and educational institutions. Let me use this opportunity once again, although Professor Ova has explained that in detail, but let me inform our guest of honors, President Ramos-Horta, that Gadjah Mada University, being the largest and oldest university in Indonesia, indeed has a special and unique place in Indonesian history. Gadjah Mada University is a home to 70,000 students and offers so many courses, has so many study centers, and plans to be a university focusing more on climate change issues, because this is the issues of the future for all of us globally. Gadjah Mada University has community services, or KKN, among others for climate resilience and sustainable development. Every year, Gadjah Mada University deploys around 10,000 students, more or less, around the country to work with local communities, raising awareness, training them to deal with waste and water management, enlightening the people about the necessity of energy transition, and urging the people to reduce plastic and lowering emissions, among others. Bapak Horta, Gadjah Mada University's program is in line with your concern about climate action and the need for international cooperation in tackling climate change issues, reducing emissions, mitigations, adaptation, and others. It is my belief that you can do a lot and collaborate with Gadjah Mada Universities to strengthen the global commitment to fight climate change and global warming. In many parts of the world, we saw skepticism about collective efforts to fight climate change, in which some countries continue their economic development not taking into account environmental degradations. Deforestation, unsustainable plantation and minings have not stopped at all, but are continuing. Countries are also lowering their national determined contributions. Frankly, this is not a good sign for climate policy. But I have to stress that we have reached a point of no return where we have to do whatever we can to save the world from climate catastrophe. In conclusion, let me say that your presence is indeed a great honor for all of us, and we look forward to a long-term and sustainable collaborations in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, it is about time for me to stop here. But before I end my introduction, let me tell you about an anecdote regarding the Nobel Peace Prize. The anecdote originated from the late George Yunus Adichandra, a Tempo senior journalist and also a social activist who at one point lived in Delhi. I visited George Yunus Adichandra's house in Delhi, but he did not tell me this anecdote. In fact, it is José Ramos-Horta who told me about this anecdote. Here is the story. When José Ramos-Horta won the Nobel Peace Prize, as announced by the Nobel Committee in Oslo, Pak Harto complained. Pak Harto said that the Nobel Committee was wrong. The Nobel Peace was not meant for Pak Horta, it was meant for Pak. The Nobel Committee was not meant for Pak Horta, it was meant for Pak Harto. It's very, difficult to distinguish Pak Horta and Pak Harto. The Nobel Committee should have said Pak Harto instead of Pak Horta. Well, it is an anecdote, but I like it. I'm glad you all laugh, So, distinguished audience, let us welcome the real Nobel Peace Laureate, José Ramos-Horta.
Thank you, Professor Todung. And ladies and gentlemen, let's continue our event. It is now our great privilege to welcome our keynote speaker, His Excellency President José Ramos-Horta, Nobel Peace Prize Laureate of 1996. He will deliver a keynote presentation titled Inspirational Leadership for Social Change. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Actually, Suharto was right. I would have loved to speak in Bahasa Indonesia, but my Bahasa is very limited, so I had to do English. But before I begin my formal speech, first I want to thank Mulia Lubis, an old friend, distinguished lawyer, human rights lawyer, and ambassador, diplomat, for bringing me once again to Yogyakarta, and to the esteemed rector, thank you for honoring me with it, and the old friend, Foreign Minister, Deputy Foreign Minister Arif Hafaz, thank you for your kind words. But when I listened to Mulia Lubis, I said, God, usually this kind of tribute to someone you do when the person is dead. And like during a funeral service, that you hear this kind. So I thought, well, I'm still alive. He's talking like I'm already dead. And I have it, before I begin my formal speech, a bit of my personal association with Indonesia. That's not in this speech. I just want to do a note on that. I first became acquainted with what was Indonesia. It was in the late 60s. And it was a group of us that included someone who later died in combat, Nicolau Lobato, very famous, great leader. And I went to see the Indonesian consul at the time called Salanggani. He had just arrived in Timor Leste. I went to see him. That was in 1969 or 70, early 70, I don't remember the year. I went with a list of people, myself included, Nicolau Lobato included. We wanted to come to Indonesia. We were part of an emerging movement for independence. And with a list only to say we want to study in Indonesia. And the consul was a bit shocked. He didn't know me. I just walked into the consulate. And he only said, if you cross the border, we cannot help you here. You cross the border, we will receive you. And that's what he said. Very cool. So back then, all of us had great admiration for Indonesia, particularly its struggle for independence, its leadership of the Bandung Conference, Afro-Asia Conference, great admiration for Bung Karno, etc., etc. But I then took personal initiatives. I went to Kupang, but was only to primarily, I went to a group of people, bringing the first sports and cultural groups from Portuguese Timor to Kupang. I met Gubernur El Tari, and we became friends, and he knew me well. And then we brought Indonesian cultural and sports groups from NTT to Portuguese Timor. In the first group came two artists, one called Judy and Marlise. And they were very popular. And they were there for several days, soccer, and so I was part of encouraging. I was very young, but I was there. And then another group came from Surabaya. The main person in the group was a singer called Ervina. I just remember Ervina. Ervina was more modern than Judy and Marlise. Judy and Marlise, they wear long sarong and very conservative. Ervina was already like a rock star, and she was wearing more like back then some miniskirt, and she was even more popular than the previous two. And I knew very well another consul who came, the last one, Elias Tomodok. I would go almost every night to their home, but that at the time was not advisable because the Portuguese authorities were watching and were very suspicious of Indonesia. But I was not really terribly interested in talking with Elias Tomodok and his wife. I was more interested in Elizabeth Tomodok. Elizabeth Tomodok was their daughter. But every time I went to the house, the old man and his wife sat in the middle and separating us. And the old man just kept talking politics, and me and Elizabeth, we becoming frustrated. And then we stayed friends ever since. Elizabeth she lives in Bali. She was married, is married to a British lawyer in Hong Kong. That's when they met. They have so they live between Bali and Canada because her daughter was married and live in Canada. So we're still in touch. 50 years later, we're still in touch. And then I came first time to Jakarta in June '74 when I met Pak Malik. And when I was in Jakarta, I traveled in becak, which was very used in Jakarta at that time, until a year later or a few years later, Governor Ali Sadiq dumped them in the river, very famous. And now you see becak. Last night I saw becak here in Yogyakarta, and I want to buy one for a souvenir. Yeah. Because I was driving and running around in becak, but also in scooter. I was very young, and I didn't know much about Jakarta. It was a very risky, dangerous, because I could have an accident. And I was alone. But before coming to Jakarta, I went to Kupang, again, to see Governor El Tari. And he is the one who paid my airfare to Jakarta. And then he assigned one of his agents, a sister called Luis Taoling, to accompany me. And he told Luis in front of me, go with Pak Ramos, look after him, don't let anyone mislead him. So Luis accompanied me to Jakarta, took me to a lodgement, a nice lodgement, paid only less than $10 a night, very clean, an old Dutch colonial building, house. But then Luis Taoling disappeared, and I never saw him during the whole time I was here. Of course, at that time, Kupang was a very boring place. So you come into Jakarta, full of temptations and sins. So Luis Taoling, and I was told he was a backing agent, but Luis Taoling was not very professional backing agent. He, instead of following me, he disappeared himself. And so who helped me ending up meeting with Adam Malik? Hari Kawilarang, at the time journalist with Sinar Harapan. We became friends. Agus Barengwan, journalist with Kompas. Then later I met, and George Alejandro, and Saban Siagian. These were the people in Jakarta who helped me, and so I circulated around. So that was, and the idea was to meet with Pak Malik to discuss the future of Timor. And it was Pak Malik who said, and in the future of independence, and he used the word, after independence, Portuguese Timor will join ASEAN. So the notion or idea of joining ASEAN was way back June '74. And he offered to train Timorese in Deplu at that time. But of course, the rest you know, history changed. And it took another 24 years for Timor Leste to achieve independence and Indonesia to achieve its second independence, its second liberation, and with this dramatic, fantastic transition from 98 to what it is today. And in 92, I wrote a speech for the European Parliament, which I delivered 22nd April 92. And I outlined some ideas of how we could resolve the Timor problem. And it was that speech part of what got me to win the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee mentioned that idea. And my idea was we should have a long period of transition that I call humanitarian phase, autonomy phase, and then a referendum. But in that, I will publish again this speech because what I said in '92 was this. This is a challenge to us, Timor Leste, and to Indonesia. And I said that who knows what Indonesia will be 20 years from now. It could change beyond recognition. Then, the idea of an independent East Timor for Indonesia is very normal. But also I said, and East Timorese living in conditions different from what it is now, how would they vote in a referendum after years of absence of violence, of pressure, and so on? So all of this happened as I visualized in my speech in '92. Anyway, these are just some introductory remarks. Thank you, Mulia, for this great introduction of mine, although I felt like I was dead. And thank you so much, Deputy Foreign Minister Arif. And he's one of the greatest Indonesian diplomats. And I always say, you know, DEPLU, Indonesian Foreign Service, is one of the best trained in the world. Of many countries I know, I always study, and Indonesia is one of the very best. Particularly the Javanese. You're never able to read the mind of a Javanese. And they never say yes, they never say no. They're like born to be diplomats. And over the years, I always observe different Americans, Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Arabs. The Indonesians are the most. And I have to say, in New York, over the years, when we were on opposite sides, I always maintained ongoing dialogue and polite and even respectful with Indonesian diplomats. They always treat me with respect. When we cross paths at the Delegates Lounge, at the UN in New York, in Geneva, and so on. So easy to be friends. Ali Alatas was the only one who made once a not very nice remark about me. But when I started his remark, I said, he's actually right. When some journalist asked him a question about me, he said, Ramos-Horta is an unemployed agitator. And I said, yes, actually he's right. I don't have a job, so I'm not like, because a job means you're paid to do something. You know? Otherwise, if you're not paid, you do something because you're unemployed. And agitator, yeah, that's true, I confess. So, and over the years, I got to know Ali Alatas well. What an outstanding diplomat. When he passed away and there was a memorial service here in Jakarta, I couldn't attend, I was elsewhere. I asked our ambassador here now, Roberto Suarez, one of our great ambassadors, to come to deliver my comments. And the title was Ali Alatas, My Enemy, My Friend. Yeah, that was the title of the speech, and that's how I ended. With here, I have some members of our parliament who join us. They are sitting here. One of my advisors, Vicky Chon. Vicky, can you stand? Vicky is like our, in the presidency, he is our grandmother. And she looked after everybody. She speaks many endless languages. And our ambassador, I already mentioned, and many of the staff from the embassy, and Shine here, she's from West Timor, but she's also like Vicky is like our grandmother. Shine is like our mother. She's from NTT. She works with this great governor, former governor of NTT, Victor Lasquadat, and his wife, Julie, two great friends of Timor Leste. So I now move to my more formal remarks. I don't call it a speech, I call it, actually, I call it a conversation. I don't like speeches. And I had some initial words in Bahasa to tell you, but I prefer not to because it can be embarrassing with my pronunciation. I only say that this is my fourth time in Yogyakarta, actually fifth time. The first time was in 2002, second time was 2012, third time 2017, but I came again, I was former president, I came again only to visit George Adijondro. He was in hospital and he no longer recognized me and he was passing away. And but in this university the second time, and I thank you, Rector, for inviting me to honor me with that. And a friend of mine, former alumni from UGM, she couldn't be here. She was a graduate from UGM. She was right now in Singapore. She told me to say the following the thing. UGM Campus Kerakyatan. Kerakyatan. She said, they will like that. And her name is Oki Madasara. She is a writer. And so as I said, this is not a speech. It's only notes. So today we are going to exchange notes on the theme empowering communities, education, social entrepreneurship, and peace. And I have to say, I have already familiarized with your initiative, Rector Academic Community Service Program, KKN-PPM, which combines academic excellence with learning for community empowerment. It is very inspiring and deserving of recognition and should be replicated globally and in particular in Timor-Leste. I'm looking into it, how we can replicate it in Timor-Leste. In my journey, my life journey through decades, it was God's hands that guided me through many storms, but at times I was gifted with favorable weather. In those long decades of daily engagement in the fight for the poor and the dispossessed, for social justice, for Timor-Leste self-determination, those years, decades form my belief that the core conditions for enduring positive peace, because there is positive peace and negative peace. Negative peace is when parties in conflict end the war and the conflict, but through imposition, not really because of feelings, belief inside them. And then you have a positive peace. So I talk first about positive peace. The core conditions for enduring peace are people must be at the center of our concerns and policies. That's number one, which is also on the ASEAN vision. Inclusivity, policies that have to be based on inclusivity, all-embracing, non-discriminatory laws and the policies in multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious countries. Every segment, every group must feel protected by the Constitution, by the laws, and the policies have to conform with the principles in the Constitution and the allocation of resources in fair proportion. We must embrace and cherish diversity. And we actually, countries should think that have so much diversity. Well, you should thank God for this blessing. It is His divine creation of a world with such rich ethnic, language, religious, cultural tapestry. Indonesia, very fortunate, blessed by God to have such a diverse people, hundreds of languages, hundreds of different cultures, and of course, countries need one or two official languages for identity and practical reasons that we all know. But let us embrace all other languages that may exist. And because in some countries, they don't understand, they try to make everybody think the same, everybody have to speak the same language, ban other languages, and so on. A language that dies is the last soul of ancestors that fly away from us. It's like, when UNESCO or a Minister of Education say such and such indigenous language no longer live, I would say it's like a soul flying away from the nation. Because a connection, a profound connection between the society, the country, its history with the past is lost. We must empower local communities. We must pursue active communication. Yeah, communication has to be two-way. Not always at the top, communicating decisions to the receivers. And you cannot allow active communication to break down. Communities must be the basis of decision-making. We must all strive to empower women at every level and every sector of governance. It is said that peace is not just the absence of war. That's obvious. But this is not enough. Absence of war is not enough. Absence of war without any other aspect of what is peace is negative peace when it is imposed. For instance, you can live in a dictatorship. I imagine probably North Korea is the most peaceful country in the world. And you don't hear of any communal violence, you don't hear of, but that is, I would say, negative peace. Positive peace has to be present at home and in schools and all the communities. Because where there is high level of domestic violence, hidden at home, homes that are supposed to be haven of love and happiness, but there is no peace for the terrified mother, the woman in the house, the terrified child. Today, I would like to share with you a few reflections on what I believe to be inspirational leadership for social change. What does it truly mean to be an inspiring leader? More than a title of formal authority, true inspirational leadership consists in ability to ignite the flame of potential in others, mobilizing individuals and communities towards a common vision of a more just, inclusive, sustainable, peaceful future. Such leadership demands, first and foremost, empathy, the ability to listen and feel the struggles and hopes of those we wish to serve, especially the most vulnerable, disadvantaged, and marginalized. Second, it requires perseverance, resilience. The path of change is difficult. An inspiring leader must have the strength to persist, to rise after every fall, and to instill the same tenacity in others. Integrity is also essential. Trust is the foundation of any lasting movement. A leader must embody honesty, transparency, and fidelity to the principles, even if it is difficult and unpopular. Oh yes, we have had this experience all the time. It can be difficult, can be unpopular. A leader must be able to articulate a compelling vision for the future, free from conflict, poverty, injustice, but the vision must be grounded in a realistic understanding of the present and enforced with concrete, achievable steps and goals. It's about dreaming big but acting smart. Inspirational leadership is above all a community center. It is not about imposing solutions, it's about listening deeply to the communities, understanding their needs, inherent strengths, their traditional wisdom, and valuing local knowledge, empowering them to be the architects for their own transformation, equipping them with tools, skills, and opportunities so they can build their own path. In this spirit, Timor-Leste experience, as it moves toward full ASEAN membership, expected in October 2025, offers a unique and valuable perspective. Here I do a pause. I apologize to any of the interpreters for not following the script here, but to say, the fact that we able to join ASEAN today, after 24 years of conflict, it's not only a tribute to Timor-Leste, it's a tribute to Indonesia. Do not underestimate the courage, the empathy, the leadership Indonesia showed in being bigger, taller than revenge. Because Indonesia and as human beings, a collective of human beings, would have felt rejected in '99 and would have turned its back to Timor-Leste. No, Indonesia showed to be greater, taller than pettiness, and immediately embraced the new independent Timor-Leste. Indonesia was central in stabilizing our border, East Timor and West Timor. And Indonesia immediately accepted a hand of reconciliation and friendship extended by our great leader, the Sukarno of Timor-Leste, Xanana Gusmão. Xanana didn't study in Gadjah, Mada. He studied in a very well-known university in Indonesia, maybe the best. He himself, he said, he graduated from Sipinang University. He did almost the normal PhD program because he spent 8 years. So if you do 3-4 years for a bachelor's degree, and then master's plus PhD, altogether about 8 years. So he got PhD summa cum laude from Universitas Cipinang. Maybe one day Cipinang should give him an honors degree. And Shanana, he is one who once said, he learned to love the Indonesian people in Cipinang. These were his words. And he is the one who led the country into this process of first national reconciliation, healing among Timorese people, and a hand of friendship with Indonesia. And Indonesia showed how greater a country it is, how greater a society it is that accepted it. So the fact that now 26 or 27 October we are joining ASEAN, it is thanks to this, to Indonesia. And I have to say few more words. In 98, 99, we had a transition in Indonesia. Suharto ceded power, B.J. Habibie took over in extraordinarily complex, sensitive situation in Indonesia. But that man, B.J. Habibie, with audacity of a leader, with vision, decided two things. One, to move on with reformasi in Indonesia, and to move on with a resolution of the East Timor conflict. That's leadership, that is courage. But he was enabled, this was enabled by the TNI. In the circumstances of 98, 99, military usually intervened because it was total chaos in Indonesia, dangerous, and the military would intervene. But the TNI leadership showed that it understood also the need for Indonesia to change. Because B.J. Habibie was not an elected president, next to zero experience in politics. He was in 20 years in Germany, dealing with aeronautics, came back to Indonesia as a Minister of Science and Technology, and then later Vice President. So very uncommon background to lead a revolution, in the change that he did. And not enough credit to B.J. Habibie and to TNI for enabling the peaceful transition, resolution of Timor conflict, and the democracy in Indonesia. If today we celebrate Indonesia as a dynamic democracy with all its imperfections, well, like almost every democracy in the world, with the exception of maybe the Nordics, democracies are imperfect and sometimes betrayed. That's why it gives rise to extremism in Europe. When democracy fails, democracy betrays. So, as I referred to, I didn't want to fail to say this. In Timor Leste, we believe that social change emerges when local communities and academic institutions come together, engage in dialogue, and co-create solutions. we would propose that ASEAN recognize and strengthen leadership models rooted in local traditions, indigenous knowledge systems, and community reconciliation practices. Models such as what we have in Timor Leste, Tarabando, and other traditional intergenerational dialogue circles should be acknowledged as effective tools for mediation, transformation, and social peace across diverse contexts. In my personal experience, the most effective social change initiatives are based on three interlinked pillars: education, social entrepreneurship, and peace. Education is not only about accumulating knowledge, but about liberating minds and consciousness. In Timor-Leste, after years of conflict, schools had been destroyed, thousands of children excluded from education. We understood that to rebuild the country, we had to rebuild education. We implemented school feeding programs to address the challenge of hunger, malnutrition, stunting, and ensuring that children stay in this classroom. A simple meal can mean the difference between learning and dropping out. In this context, we propose that ASEAN intensify efforts to connect its universities with local communities, creating an ASEAN network of universities for social transformation, with joint programs in digital literacy, social inclusion, climate justice, community entrepreneurship, in order to foster innovative partnerships in the green and blue economy. I move on, so I'm moving a bit faster, so I'm not reading the whole text. You might be confused if you're following it through the screen. Our youth anywhere are our greatest resource. It is obvious. We advocate within ASEAN for the creation of a young ASEAN program for transformative leadership based on community internships, intercultural exchange, and local innovation labs to form leaders who serve with ethics, vision, and empathy. And most profoundly, peace. Without peace, there can be no development, and that is obviously, it's so obvious. I already talked about reconciliation. Reconciliation must come from the heart and mind, and it requires political courage. You know, one cannot pass a law, proclaim reconciliation. It doesn't happen. Reconciliation has to come from heart and mind. And from years and years of restraint, years of leadership, where we, the people, they listen to the leaders, they follow the leaders who do not preach anger, do not preach revenge, do not preach prejudices and about other communities. We can read, deviate a bit from the speech. If you read the war that happened in Rwanda in the 90s, what happened there? You read what happened in the Balkans, in Serbia, Bosnia. Well, it was a leadership problem. Reconciliation is an art, one that can be learned and transmitted. Thank you. Our challenge did not end with liberation. We then had to build a state, establish democratic institutions, rebuild the economy, and above all, heal the wounds of the past. We did. We led mobile health projects to reach communities. We invested in access to clean water. Still, almost insurmountable challenge, freeing women and children from hours of daily water collection, reducing diseases. And I have to say, a few days ago, WHO announced that Timor Leste is free of malaria. For centuries it was there. Hundreds of thousands of people across the world still die of malaria. Timor Leste finally was declared, after several years without a case. So it began in 2015, where only one case or two or no case at all. And then 2025, WHO declared Timor is finally free of malaria. So I jump. I return to your remarkable initiative, esteemed Rector. Your integration of education with community service is an exemplary model of how universities can lead social transformation. To the students, I encourage you to live this experience fully. Your presence, communities, listening, and your actions are very precious. Apply the principles of inspirational leadership, empathy, resilience, integrity, and a vision. Each of your gestures can create lasting impact. The world faces immense challenges. Our esteemed Deputy Prime Minister Aval just mentioned the challenges. We have a challenge of multi-dimensional poverty, economic and social inequalities, climate change, and the persistent conflicts almost everywhere. But we also possess great human capacity for innovation. Within ASEAN, inspirational leadership for social change must be that which dares to unite tradition and innovation, local wisdom, academic knowledge, youth and elders, communities and institutions. May Timor-Leste, even with its many challenges, remain a humble example of hope, reconstruction, transformative vision. The future belongs to those who dream and those who have the courage to work to make those dreams come true. May we continue working together with global solidarity to empower every community, transform lives. And I already discussed in passing with friends from UGM a dream I have, and maybe if and when I meet with President Prabowo, I will share with him this dream. I did share already with Mambot Shanana. The dream is that we, together, Timor-Leste and Indonesia, build a university that crossed the border, East and West Timor, in the area of Batu Gade, Mota Aing, Atambua, a university cross. An international university, an international standards university, dedicated primarily to science and technology, but focus on issues like how we human beings can better access water. Because in this world today, as you know, only 1% of fresh water existing in the planet is accessible to human beings. Only 1%. Some countries are very fortunate. Myanmar, for instance, no problems of water. Brazil, well, they have the great Amazon, But great areas of Brazil is dry. In the north, desert. And eastern Indonesia is considered, and eastern Indonesia and the Timor Leste are considered, classified as water stress. The world population today is over 8 billion. Can we imagine the pressure on water by 1.5 billion Indians every single day? Or China and all other countries. So we must address this issue seriously. Food security. How can we grow food with less and less water? How to improve on renewable energy? I say, one of these days, solar energy might become obsolete. Technology is moving so fast, I wouldn't be surprised if few months, few years from now, the Chinese announce that they are putting an artificial sun in the space, an artificial thing that would capture the sun and beam to planet Earth, beam to China. Is that crazy? See what they have been doing, they have been achieving. And many other areas on diseases, tropical diseases and others. So these are the challenge, the invitation. And if Indonesia agrees, President Prabowo likes the idea, but even if he doesn't like, even if Shanana might not like the idea, I will pursue it privately with some universities. Well, let's do it anyway, because I will find the money to do it. The symbolism of it. Two countries previously in conflict, one majority Muslim in the world, the other one 99.6% Catholic, come together, create this very unique university in the world, an international university that would invite students from around the world, academics from around the world, co-led by one or two universities from Timor Leste, one or two universities from NTT and from the rest of Indonesia. So that's I end. I have done this. I floated this idea at a seminar where I spoke at our university, Unteli in Delhi, and I will keep talking a bit about it. And then eventually I present a formal concept, a formal proposal. I thank you, terima kasih, for listening to me, for inviting me to come. Thank you, Mulia. And we together, me and Mulia Lubis, we have been working to nominate Muhammadiyah and the Nahdlatul Ulama for the Nobel Peace Prize. We have done, I have done. I have promoted Nahdlatul Ulama Ahmadiyya for UNESCO Peace Prize and proposed for the Human Fraternity Award, which is a creation of Papa Francisco and the Grand Imam, Professor Tayeb of Al-Azhar, Cairo. I was a jury in it a few years ago. And now I work, often they call me for support, for advice. And so Nahdlatul Ulama and Ahmadiyya got the award. I was there in Abu Dhabi when they received the award last year. And these two organizations richly deserve it. You know, one of my greatest regrets in life was I should have, and I didn't, I should have nominated B.J. Habibie for the Nobel Peace Prize. If anyone deserved, was him. I confess, never occurred to me, only years later. And, but you know, when B.J. Habibie passed away, Shanana was with him. It was 100% private, very intimate, but someone had a video. They filmed. It was not our side, the Indonesian side, film. Very moving scene of Shanana kissing the forehead of Habibie and Habibie blessing Shanana. And then I said, God, because I nominated several institutions, people in the past, they won the Peace Prize. And so I regret. And so I make it as my mission to do justice to B.J. Habibie and to recognize these two great institutions, Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama. I thank you and thank the university, UGM, for taking so many Timorese. 3,000 Timorese graduated from UGM. And many are here in the room, probably. I see some faces, they look like Timorese. And can you stand up? The Timorese were here. Yeah. Obrigado. Terima kasih.
Thank you so very much, President of Timor Leste. And ladies and gentlemen, we inform you that President presentation materials will be uploaded to the official of Universitas Gadjah Mada website. Once the material is available, we will share the download link with all participants via WhatsApp. So please make sure your contact number is registered with our committee team. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to the next program to deliver the concluding remarks on UGM's strategy for impactful and measurable community service. We now invite Vice Rector for Research, Business Development, and Partnership of Universitas Gadjah Mada to move forward. Dr. Danang Srihatmoko.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, President José Ramos-Horta, Nobel Laureate and President of Democratic Republic of Timor Leste, Your Excellency, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bapak Arif Hafaz Ogroseno, Your Excellency, Ambassador of Democratic Republic of Timor Leste to Indonesia, Your Excellency, Ambassador Profesor Dr. Tudung Mulya Lubis, Excellency Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada, Profesor Ova Emilia, Board of Trustee, Academic Senate, all Vice Rectors, and Deans, Vice Dean, Professors, students, ladies and gentlemen. As we come up with the end of this very memorable session, I would like to try to conclude this session by inviting us to reflect on the deeper meaning of today's gathering. This is beyond ceremonial meeting. This is a powerful message of solidarity, learning, and also the shared purpose. We are very inspired by the reflection delivered by His Excellency President José Ramos-Horta on peace, on dignity, and on the kind of the leadership that uplift others. His words speak not only in the past, but also the vision and the future that we need to shape together. As highlighted by Ibu Rektor, since its inception in 1971, KKN PPM became one of the Universitas Gadjah Mada, the most defining contribution to our society. It is not merely as a student activity, it is a national movement of compassion, of knowledge sharing, and inclusive development. Through this program, thousands of the students every year step out of their academic comfort zone into the heart of our nation, particularly in the village and in the cities and in the different areas. They do not arrive as experts, but they arrive as the humble learner and contributors. In return, they gain something more profound than academic credit. They gain empathy, wisdom, cultural understanding, and the confidence to become the agents of development, the agent of change. They engage with the society, with the real world, from tackling the poverty, malnutrition, supporting the health and education, and strengthening the village governance and environmental resilience. And in doing so, they help bridge gap between universities and society, within university, with the government, between university and the real world. Importantly, KKN PPM is not only one-way journey. It is a platform for mutual growth where the students and communities to create the solution together. It fosters partnership between academia, industry, government, and society, and ensuring that innovation and policy are grounded in a real-life context. And behind this initiative lies deeper national philosophy. Indonesia certainly is the great country, as mentioned by His Excellency, an expansive archipelago blessed with the greatest mega biodiversity, hotspots in the planet, rich of the cultural tradition, and unparalleled geodiversity. But to become the strong nation, we need a generation that truly understands the complexity and the beauty of the land. This is the spirit behind the KKN, to allow our youth to step in the real world, to see Indonesia beyond the classroom. For the student from Papua to serve in Aceh, for the one from Sumatra to experience the daily life in Sulawesi or in Maluku, not just an education, it is the lesson in unity, in empathy, and being Indonesian. Beyond national border, KKN PPM hold the potential grow into the movement of the peace among the youth in ASEAN, as mentioned also by the Deputy of Minister, Pak Hafaz, connecting your mind across the region through the shared service, cultural exchange, and the common commitment to humanity. In the world that increasingly divided, such people-to-people engagement is vital to nurturing the peace, trust, and solidarity in Southeast Asia. We are proud that the program has reached every province in Indonesia and has been honored by Indonesian World Record Museum or MURI. But what matters is not only in the record, but also in the relationship that we build, the lives that we touch, and the idea that spark through each development and every step of the KKN program. And more importantly, the contribution to the humanity. As mentioned, I would like to highlight what President Ramos-Horta mentioned: dreaming big, smart, and collective action with the full of endurance are needed to sustain and amplify the impact of the KKN UGM. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply honored by your visit. Your presence is the symbol of the friendship, trust, and the shared value between Indonesia and Timor Leste, and more importantly with the region of Southeast Asia and with ASEAN. It opened the doors for the meaningful collaboration, especially in the area of the youth development. We are very proud to our students here for the education, the community empowerment. We thanks for your inspiration, the shared vision, and the opportunity to collaborate. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Danang Sri Hatmoko, for wrapping up this session. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to a special moment of our agenda, which is token of appreciation session. We would like to invite Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada, Professor Dr. Ova Amelia, to move forward. And President of Timor Leste, please also move forward to receive the token of appreciation delivered by Professor Ova Amelia. And we would like to invite Professor Todung and Mr. Arif Hafaz to accompany the President for the token of appreciation. Thank you so very much, President of Timor Leste, for being here with us today. And our souvenir is batik. As a symbol of our gratitude and respect, we would like to present batik jacket to President Jose. Batik is a traditional Indonesian textile art recognized by UNESCO as a masterpiece of oral and intangible heritage of humanity. And today's batik jacket not only represents Indonesia's rich culture heritage, but also our warmest appreciation and the spirit of friendship. UGM and Timor Leste. So if you don't mind, you can wear the batik jacket. All right. And in vice versa, President of Timor Leste will deliver a token of appreciation to Rector of Universitas Gadjah Mada. And next, Rector will present souvenir to our distinguished guests. First, we will witness the souvenir presentation to Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Thank you once again. Rector will present souvenir to Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno. And next to Professor Todung Mulya Lubis, Indonesian Ambassador to Norway, period from 2018 until 2023. And also, President Jose will present souvenir to Mr. Arif Hafaz Ugroseno. And next to Professor Todung Mulya Lubis. Once again, thank you so very much. And please give a big applause to all of our distinguished guests, our keynote speakers, And we hope this small token will serve as memorable keepsake from your time with us here. And we will have a photo session together. And the photo session will be divided into 2 sessions. First session with all esteemed guests here, and next session we kindly invite all parliaments of Timor Leste and also all of organ leader of Universitas Gadjah Mada, vice rector, and then representative of board of trustees or board of professor and academic senate. Please move forward to have photo session with the president. And we will capture this special moment. 3, 2, 1. Smile. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. And that concludes our special event this afternoon. And we have come to the end of our UGM annual lecture, Nobel Laureate series. And we inform you that after this, we invite all of you to exchange your ID card at the first floor to the registration desk to get the goodie bag from the committee. And after that, we would like to invite all of you to have lunch at the 3rd floor of multimedia dining room. And ladies and gentlemen, after this also we inform to all media that will be press conference doorstop at the Selasar at the foyer, and please all media to be prepared to have press conference with the president. Baik Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian, dengan demikian maka berakhir sudah acara UGM Annual Lecture kita pada siang hari ini. Kami informasikan kepada Bapak Ibu, silahkan Anda dapat menuju ke meja registrasi untuk menukarkan ID card Anda dengan goodie bag yang sudah kami siapkan. Setelah itu Bapak Ibu bisa menuju ke lantai 3, tepatnya di ruang makan multimedia untuk menikmati santap siang yang sudah kami siapkan. Once again, thank you for your attendance. Good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
This is KKN PPM, a community-based service and learning program from Universitas Gadjah Mada. For 2 months, students step away from the comfort of campus life. They live with communities across Indonesia in villages they often go up hurt. They sit, listen, and learn. With care and collaboration, they act. From clean water and waste solutions to teaching digital skills, improving farming methods, and promoting community health. They bring innovation that meets real needs. They don't come as a hero, but what they do leaves a mark. In the kitchen, where clean water finally flows, in the smile of a child learning to read, in the farmer's joy of finding new ways to grow and sell. This is what it means to serve. This is education that touches lives. This is the Gadjah Mada spirit in action. KKN PPM is a commitment to Indonesia's future, where knowledge serves the people and inclusivity becomes something we live and practice. It's where a lifelong duty to serve begins, and where every step forward becomes a progress for the nations.